Hello everyone, this is my submission for the Child Observation Project. For this project, I decided to observe my cousin, baby Eleanor. Now, Eleanor is 17 months old, that's why I decided to observe her. I felt like she was a perfect age because she's still within Jean Piaget's development stages, which is between like 0 and 24 months, I believe. So I felt like she was at a good stage where she's passed a lot of these developmental milestones, yet still she hasn't passed all of them. She's in a good place for me to see where like kind of her brain's at and her mind's at. Now, Eleanor's a very unique baby in that she's very serious. I've hardly ever seen her smile or anything like that. She doesn't really like playing. She doesn't really like joking. She stays really close to her mom, which is normal for a baby her age. Yeah, she's just a very, very serious baby, but she's also super intelligent. And I noted that she's crying in this picture because she was hungry. So she like goes from 0 to 100 really fast. Now, I decided to include the definition of cognitive development, and it's defined as the construction of thought process, including remembering, problem-solving, decision-making, and that's from childhood through adolescence to adulthood. Now, in this upcoming slide, Eleanor is going to be demonstrating her understanding of object permanence. So, object permanence develops in infants around 8 months old, typically not before. And since Eleanor is 17 months old, I knew that she would probably far surpass this test, and she did. So I covered a coaster. You can't really see it at the bottom, but it's a coaster that she put like a mug on. And I covered it with tissue paper, and like within 0.5 seconds, she immediately like ripped it off. She knew what was going on. So she has a full understanding of object permanence. Now, I also went over her tertiary circular reaction. This is the last 2 stages of the 6 stages of sensory motor intelligence. This is where they're the most creative, and they have new ideas, which helps them to do something. So I'll kind of show in this next slide. So Eleanor right here, she picked up the tissue that I had used for the object permanence test, and she put it on her head. And so to me, this showed her maturing thought process, because she knew that the coaster would disappear under the tissue. So now she's putting the tissue on her head to kind of see if she would disappear under it. And I kind of talk about it in this slide a little bit, that she was making a connection between the tissue hiding the coaster, and then she was testing whether the same tissue would hide herself. So she has a very good reasoning kind of going on in her mind, which makes sense for the age she's at. Now, for her psychosocial development, that's a development of personality, including the acquisition of social attitudes and skills. I decided to test her separation anxiety and stranger wariness. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, she's very like close to her mom. She's very clingy to her mom. Even she prefers her mom over her dad. Like, Eleanor doesn't really like being held by people that much in general, except her mom. So I decided to run a couple of tests on her. First, I did self-awareness, because I wanted to see her self-awareness. I think I mentioned it right here. Yeah, so I wanted to demonstrate her self-awareness and stranger wariness. So first, this is the self-awareness. Now, I just put a Snapchat filter on her. I was playing around with her, and she immediately started screaming and crying because she knew that it was her. And even her mom told me, I didn't document this, but if you show her a picture, she can point her and her siblings out. So she has an understanding of herself, like she knows what she looks like and who she is. So when I put this Snapchat filter on her, she immediately started screaming and crying because she didn't want the glasses on her face, and she didn't want the little goatee thing going on. So I think that just demonstrates that she's very fully aware of what she looks like and what she should look like. Now, stranger wariness, you can kind of see in these pictures, that's her mom that she's with in the first 2 pictures. Now, she is almost always touching her mom at all times. She's always leaning up against her mom, or has her foot on her mom, or her hand somewhere. She even puts her hand in her mom's mouth. I don't know why she does that, but she always has to be touching her mom. And this 3rd picture I have here is when my aunt wanted to try and pick her up, or she didn't even try and pick her up. She just put her arms out and held her arms out, and Eleanor just was like freaking out and started crying because she didn't even like the thought of being touched by someone she didn't know. Now, I think that Eleanor, being that she's 17 months, is in the trust versus mistrust stage. So she's trying to decide whether she trusts other people. Definitely her mom is her main caregiver, so she trusts her mom, but she's trying to figure out whether she trusts strangers or not. For the most part, I'm the only person that she doesn't like cry when I touch her or anything, and even then sometimes she does, but like I'm the person she's most comfortable with, and I don't spend that much time with Eleanor. I see her maybe like once a month or something like that, but and I think she remembers me, but she definitely sees other people more. But she's definitely, even her mom was saying that she's very comfortable with me versus other people. A lot of people get in her face. She doesn't like people that come into her face. They freak her out. She's just a very anxious little girl. Now, again, trust versus mistrust stage is what I believe that she's in, being that she's 17 months old. Now, for her physical development, we're testing her coordination, her control over her body. So first we tested her gross motor skills. So we tested it by attempting to see if she could catch or throw a ball. It failed miserably. You can see in the picture the ball didn't really hit her head, it hit her shoulder, but that was her mom throwing the ball. She didn't understand the concept of catching and passing back, and then she just learned how to walk actually. I know it's kind of surprising, but she's 17 months old, and 2 weeks before this she started like walking. So that third picture is her bending down to get the ball and falling over because she loses her balance. So she definitely has some kind of gross motor skills, but they're definitely not like super developed or anything. And then we also tested her fine motor skills. So what we did is we had a little stepping stool. This one was scary because I don't like seeing babies climb up things, but we had the stepping stool, so it was fine. Her mom played a video of it was some kind of music video, and you can see Eleanor trying to look at the video and peek over. We put it on top of a table, and then we put the stepping stool up to it, and we tried to get her to climb up. And she has definitely enough strength, because earlier in the day she had been climbing up the couch, but she definitely didn't understand how to pull herself up the ladder. I think it's different, like a couch and a ladder, because she can pull herself up, and she is like strong enough to climb things and to get her footing on things, but yeah, for whatever reason, she couldn't figure out how to pull herself up. You can see in the middle picture her trying to balance herself, like by holding on to both sides of the ladder. But yeah, she definitely doesn't have, I would say, any kind of fine motor skills, which is something that takes 2 hands, and I don't think that she has that quite yet, but I think that that's normal because it takes a long time for children to be able to develop some kind of fine motor skills. And that's the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much.